Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Masechet Yevamot Daf, Pei Vav Amud Aleph 86A1. We're just going to start again on Pei Amud Bet, just on the Mishnah over there, just to get refreshed again. The Mishnah over there said that when you have a Bat Yisrael that is going to be engaged to a Kohen, or pregnant from a Kohen, or Shomer Tivan to a Kohen, or a Bat Kohen that's going to be pregnant from an Israel, or engaged to Israel, or Shomer Tivan to Israel, they're not allowed to eat Truma. Bat Yisrael that's going to be to a Levi, whether it's going to be engaged, pregnant, or Shomer Tivan to a Levi, or Bat Levi to a Israel, which is going to be again engaged, pregnant, or Shomer Tivan, you're not allowed to eat Maaser Rishon. Remember, Maaser Rishon goes to the Levi. Bat Levi to a Meuresa Kohen, or Meuberet to the Kohen, right? Or Shomer Tivan to a Kohen, or Bat Kohen to a Levi. They're not allowed to eat either or. It means not allowed to eat Truma like Kohen, not allowed to eat Maaser Rishon like a Levi. Says the Gemara, and this is where we left off yesterday. Yeah? Says the Gemara, what does that mean? Even if you're going to tell me now that this woman, right, in the 6 cases that we said in the Mishnah, right, that they're going to be considered like a Zara, which means like not a Levia. Zara milo achla b'maaser. What? A Zara cannot eat a Maaser Rishon. Maaser Rishon is permitted to everybody. I understand Truma. Okay, you're right. Truma is only to a Kohen. Cannot be eaten by a Zara. But Maaser Rishon could be eaten by anybody. So even if this woman is going to be a Zara, she's not going to be considered a Levi, or a Bat Levi, or a Bat Kohen, or whatever that you want. But it doesn't matter. She's allowed to eat Maaser Rishon. Samar of Nachman of Meshmuel says Nachman of Meshmuel, Hamani, who is this? Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir. Tamar Maaser Rishon asul lezarim. According to Shitat Rabbi Meir, right, Maaser Rishon is going to be prohibited to strangers. Okay, the Tanya was we went to the Braita. Now we're going to bring down the Braita. Vav Amud Aleph on the top, 86A1 on the top. Truma la Kohen Maaser Rishon leLevi. Divrei Rabbi Meir. According to Shitat Rabbi Meir, Truma can only be eaten by a Kohen, and Maaser Rishon can only be eaten by a Levi. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. So you see from here, Shitat Rabbi Meir, that it's going to be a sur for Zarim to eat Maaser Rishon. Meila, our Mishnah is going according to Rabbi Meir. Stam Mishnah like Rabbi Meir, so it makes sense. Fine. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah matiro la Kohen. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he comes and he says that it's going to be permitted to eat Maaser Rishon, to eat for a Kohen. So now the Gemara is going to say matiro miklal deika mandas. If you're going to say matiro, what do you mean matiro? Matiro means somebody is prohibiting it. Rabbi Meir didn't prohibit it, right? No Tana said that a Kohen cannot eat Maaser Rishon. So says the Gemara, Ela Eiman, it's not afla Kohen. He means no, that you're allowed to give it also to a Kohen, not only to a Levi, also to a Kohen. That means according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he said the words matiro afla Kohen. We're talking about Maaser, it was Rabbi Meir said Maaser Rishon was only for the Levi. So Rabbi Elazar, the Rabbi Azariah says, no, it's not only for the Levi, but it's also for the Kohen. So it's Levi and for the Kohen. Okay? My time at Rabbi Meir, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Meir that Maaser Rishon is going to be prohibited for Zarim? Amar Ravacha, the Rabba says, Ravacha, right to the son of Rabba, Mishma the Gemara, in the name of the Masoret of the Gemara, Kiet Ma'asar ben Yisrael asher yarimu la'Hashem truma natati lalvim l'nachala, the Ma'aser ben Yisrael that I'm going to give as a truma, I gave it to the Leviim. So you see from here that it called Maaser Rishon Truma. One more time. Ma'asar b'nei Yisrael asher yarimu la'Hashem Truma natati lalvim. Now we know that Truma does not go to the Levim. What goes to the Levim? Maaser Rishon. So why is the Torah calling it Truma? So therefore it's going to be a Hekesh. It's a juxtaposition between, right, close proximity, yeah, between Truma and Maaser. Ma Truma surah lezarim. Just like Truma, according to everybody, we know that Truma cannot be eaten by the Zarim. So to Maaser Rishon, it cannot be eaten by Zarim. Fine. So says the Gemara, that is the reasoning of Rabbi Meir why he prohibits Maaser Rishon to Zarim. So ask the Gemara, if you're already making such a Hekesh, right? 1 second. So if you already want to make a Hekesh, why don't I say if a person comes and they eat Truma and they're not a Kohen, what's the penalty? The penalty is Mita b'dei Shamayim. What else do they have to do? They have to pay Chomesh. What does that mean? They have to pay the Keren, which is the principal, plus the Chomesh, plus an additional fifth for that which they ate. This is obviously talking about if they ate it accidentally. So the question is, so just like by Truma you have this punishment, so to by Maaser Rishon you should have this punishment. That you should be Chayav Mita b'dei Shamayim if they ate it purposely, and Chomesh, right, if they did it accidentally, that they have to pay back the principal and a fifth. So Amarka, that's why the pasuk says, "Umetu bo ki chaluhu, yasav chamishito alav, velo b'maaser alav, velo." Right? What does it mean? Bo velo b'maaser, alav velo al maaser. He's coming and saying, even though you wanted to make this juxtaposition to apply the same rules of truma to maaser, meaning just like truma is asura lezarim, to maaser is asura lezarim. So I wanted to apply also the punishments, which is the mitabi de shemaim and the keren and the chomesh. When it says umetu bo ki chalu, that means only the one that eats it is going to become chayav mita. It's only bo, only in the truma, not maaser. Or v'yasach mishito alav, alav v'lo al maaser. So it's mefurash in the psukim that it only applies to teruma and it does not apply to maaser. Okay? The Quran now is going to continue with the next shita. What does that mean? We just said that according to Shita Rabbi Meir, maaser rishon is asul lezarim, but this is a dat yachid already. So the Gemara is now going to learn, what do the Chachamim argue? What did they learn from the Sekesh from Maaser Rishon to Truma? At the end of the day, there's a Sekesh from Maaser Rishon to Truma. It said, Ki Ma'asar B'nei Yisrael, which we're talking about Maaser Rishon, Asher Yarimu La'Hashem Truma, Natati L'Alvim V'Nachalam. I'm giving it to them as a Truma. So now what is it? It's Maaser, it's like Truma. So there has to be some type of something that we learn together. So it says the Gemara B'Rabbanan, and according to the rabbis that they argue in the B'Mini, and they hold the Maaser Rishon is permitted for, right, everybody to eat. Ma Truma Tovelet, just like Truma, right? You have to do Tevilah. What does that mean? Sorry, Tovelet. It says over here, it's going to cause Tevel. What does that mean? As long as you didn't separate the Truma, it's considered Tevel. Tevel is untithed produce. That's Tevel. Yeah. Af Maaser Rishon Nami Tovel. So to Maaser Rishon is going to cause Tevel. What does that mean? That as long as you do not take Maaser Rishon, it's still going to be considered Tevel, and you're obligated to Chayav Mita B'dei Shamayim, even though there's no Chayav Mita on eating Maaser Rishon in itself. Meaning, eating the Truma in itself is Mita B'dei Shamayim. Eating Maaser Rishon itself is not Mita B'dei Shamayim. But the fact that you did not separate the Maaser Rishon, it still means that it's Tevel. Because what is Tevel? You didn't take off Truma to Masrot. So therefore, just like he says that if a person is going to eat Truma, he gets, again, it makes it Tevel because he didn't separate Truma. So too, if he didn't take off Maaser Rishon, it's still Tevel, and therefore he's going to be Chayav Mita B'dei Shamayim. The Tanya Rabbi Yosef, just like we learned in Raita, Rabbi Yosef says, Yachol lo yeh chayav ela tevel shelo ra mimenu kol ikar. I would have thought to say that a person is only going to be chayav on eating tevel that was not donated whatsoever, lo ma'asro v'lo truma. Ura mimenu truma gdola. What happens if they took off truma gdola? Remember that truma gdola is the first truma. Okay? Remember, the first thing that you do in the field is Truma Gdula. Truma Gdula goes to the Kohen. After Truma Gdula, how much is that? Technically, it's Midoraita. It's going to be 150. It's a little bit, it's a small amount. But afterwards, they usually say it's 150, it's 124, whatever it is. Yeah? After Truma Gdula, what do you take off? Maaser Rishon. Maaser Rishon is how much? 110, 10%. It goes to the Levi. After that, the Levi has to take off 10%. Truma, what's that called? Maaser mina maaser or trumat maaser. Maaser from the maaser or trumat maaser. So how much is that? 1%, right? Because from the original, because it's 10% of the 10%. The Levi takes off 10%. He has to give 10%. Who does that go to? Kohen. Very good. So one more time. Trumat gdola to the Kohen. Maaser rishon to the Levi, 10%. Then the Levi takes off 10% from what he just received, which is the original 1% from everything in the beginning, right? So it's 10% from Maaser from the Maaser. So it's 10% from the 10%, and he's going to give that to the Kohen. So it says over here, it says, I would have thought to say, that nothing was taken off. No Maaserot or not Truma. But what happens if it was taken off already? Truma Gdola was given to the Kohen. But it was not taken off Maaser Rishon. Or Maaser Rishon, it was not taken off Maaser Sheni, right? Who's Maaser Sheni to? Maaser Sheni is to eat it inside of Yerushalayim. It could be eaten by anybody, but it has to be eaten inside of Yerushalayim. That means eaten by yourself, right? You don't need to give it to anybody else, right? And that's going to be which years are Maaser Sheni? Doctor? He's going to answer the question, but he's not here. 1, 2, 4, 5. 1, 2, 4, 5. 3 and 6 is Maaser Ani, and 1, 2, 4, 5 is Maaser Shani. So says the Gemara, I would have thought to say that if it was taken off Maaser Rishon, lo Maaser Shani, va'afilu Maaser Ani, or even if it was not going to be taken off the Maaser Ani. Minayin, how do we know that still you're going to be chayav yishum achilat tevet? Meaning, as long as you didn't take off all of the trumot, umasrut, you're still chayav on tevet. Tamulomah, that comes to teach you, it says in the pasuk, this is in Devarim, lo tuchal le'echol bisharecha masadiganecha tzurisham, right? Ulhala, and there it says by Maaser Ani, ve'achilu bisharecha v'saveu. So therefore, we make gzira shavah bisharecha bisharecha. The first one says lo tuchal le'echol bisharecha masadiganecha, and it says ve'achilu bisharecha v'saveu. מה בשעריך מול העולם ואכלו בשעריך ותגמר מעשר עני, אף בשעריך מול קיים אותם מעשר עני. והמרחמנה לא תוכל לאכול, you're not allowed to eat it. So it comes out from here that you're not allowed to eat the fruits if they still have מעשר עני in it. Meaning not only מעשר ראשון and תרומה גדולה and מעשר, nothing. If you still have a מעשר, any type of מעשר in your fruits, you're not allowed to eat the fruits. Why? It's still considered.
You're supposed to take it and then give it on your two on your.
If you're going to tell me from the drasha of this Braita of Rabbi Yosef, of Lo Tuchal Le'echol Bisharecha, Havamina, I would have had a Havamina Lelav. What does it mean, Lelav? That this is a negative commandment, and that's it. Which means that it's a negative commandment on eating Tevin. Aval Mita, Lo, I would have said, listen, it's not going to be Mita B'Deshamayim. Meaning, if it's just written Lo Tuchal Le'echol Bisharecha, fine, don't eat it. So it's a negative commandment, don't eat it. But whoever told you it's a Mita B'Deshamayim? So Kamashmalan, that's why I had to teach you that it's still Mita B'Deshamayim, that we have to make a kesh between Truma and Maaser Rishon, that just like Truma, if somebody eats Truma and they're a Zar, if they get Mita B'Deshamayim, so too if somebody's going to eat Maaser Rishon, it's going to be Mita B'Dei Shamayim. Okay. Lishna Harina. Remember that Lishna Harina always comes and gives you another version of what we just said. Sometimes it actually flips it, sometimes it just changes certain parts of it. So let's see. Lishna Harina, another explanation. Maaser Rishon leTavil, right? Where do we learn that Maaser Rishon is Tovel Beperot, which means that if you do not take off Maaser Rishon, it's still going to be Tevel. We learn it from Rabbi Yosef Nafka. We learn it from Rabbi Yosef. Sorry. Rabbi Yosef Nafka, you're going to tell me we're going to learn it from Rabbi Yosef. Why? Right? He says, Imahi, right? We're going to say, if it's going to be from Rabbi Yosef, Havamina lelav, I wouldn't have it. It's a lav. Aval mitalo, Kamashmalan can teach you, right, that we don't say this, which means that according to this explanation now, we went right away for the Rabbi Yosef. Meaning that we thought from the beginning, for sure we learned from Rabbi Yosef. No, if we would have learned from Rabbi Yosef, we would have had the question that we just asked. Then we wouldn't have had the Shemaim. So therefore, obviously, we don't learn it from Rabbi Yosef. Okay, because beforehand, we were learning the question of Rabbi Yosef as a proof. Kivitanya, just like we learned in the Braita, which means that we were trying to bring a proof to it. And we're saying, no, we can't say it. Fine. B'mayo kimta, how do you know? So how are you going to now, based on Mishnah, could it be me? Right? You just said, that what is our Mishnah? Our Mishnah is going like a me. That's Maaser Rishon is Asura Lezari. Right? And therefore, this woman, right? Asura be Maaser Rishon. Right? Why? Because she's like a stranger, and therefore it's Asura Lezari. So says the Gemara, Masechet, let's say the Seifa. The Seifa says, what happens to the Bat Levi that she's Meureset to the Kohen, or Bat Kohen Meureset to Levi? So he said that she cannot eat not Truma, no Maaser. Where's the Zarut exactly? At the end of the day, also the Kohanim, their wives, their children, right? They're also Levi. So they're allowed to eat Maaser Rishon. More time. But now, they are allowed to eat Maaser Rishon because at the end of the day, Kohen is a Levi. So therefore, they're allowed to. So therefore, why wouldn't they be allowed to eat according to Rabbi Meir? There's no reason to prohibit them at the end of the day. So Amar Rav Sheshat says Rav Sheshat, what does it mean that she's not allowed to eat? Because remember, in the Seifa, it said Mefurash the exact same way that it said in the Reisha, but Levi what's going on? So he says, she's not allowed to send a shaliach to separate Trumat Maaser from the Maaser Rishon of the Arus, which means a woman, she's Meureset, she cannot separate that which belongs to the Arus, but rather it's going to be considered like Torem Shel Chavero Shel Minato, that it's not going to be Chal, which means it is. Let's say right now Mordechai has to separate Trumat Maaser. I cannot separate from Mordechai unless he knows about it, unless he wants me to do it for him. I cannot just come and say, you know what, I'm going to separate it for him. I can't do that, right? So the same thing, this woman, she's Meureset to the Kohen, right? Meureset. Remember, Meureset here is the first stage of marriage, right? It's Kiddushin, it's Irusin. But she cannot come and separate for her husband, right? The different types of the Maaser or all these things, it just doesn't help. So therefore, if she's going to come and separate the Maaser Rishon going to the Levi, right? It doesn't help. It does not help. Why? Because, right, she doesn't have that power. So says the Gemara, he asked the Gemara, David's question. Says, one second. You just told me that because she's Meureset, she cannot do it. But if she's actually Misua, she could do it. Says the Gemara, yes. והתניא בזמנות הרבלתה, ואכלתם אותו בכל מקום אתם ובתיכם, לימד על נשואת בת ישראל שנותנת רשות לתרום. This actually teaches that a woman that she's married to the Levi, right? Because it says ובתיכם, the bait is the wife, right? Then the Levi himself is a tem. על נשואת בת ישראל, which means that she's going to be a bat Israel, that she's a Eshel Levi, she's allowed to give Trumat Maaser for Maaser Rishon of her husband. So it comes out of Pasuk Mefurash that a woman that she's a bat Israel, she got married to a Levi. The Levi comes and he receives Maaser Rishon. Now he has to separate Trumat Maaser, Maaser Mina Maaser to give to the Kohen. The wife is allowed to do so. So the wife is allowed to come and separate for the husband. And that we learn from the Pasuk. V'achaltem oto b'chol makom atem uvetechem. Uvetechem means, right, your wife. The wife of the person. Okay? Fine. So ata omer reshut litrom o ena le'echol. Says 1 second. When it says now that she has the permission to take off the Trumat Maaser from the husband, do we mean that she has the permission to take it off? Or is she permitted even to eat from the Maaser? So Amarta, you just told me Truma Chamura Ochelet. You just told me now that since she's married, she's allowed to eat Truma, right? Maaser Akal Lo Kol Sheken. So obviously she can eat Maaser. Meaning, what's more stringent? Truma or Maaser? Truma is much more stringent, according to everybody. Truma is much more stringent than Maaser. So if Truma, she was a Bat Yisrael, she got married to a Kohen, she could eat Truma? Yes. So Kal V'chomer, she could eat Maaser. Obviously. Saying, why wouldn't you? Saying, if the Truma HaChamur, she could eat, so Kal V'chomer, the Maaser HaKal, she could eat. So obviously it's not the eating. It's that she's allowed to separate. So if you see from here that she's allowed to separate and she's allowed to give it on her husband's behalf. More Bered Ravina comes and says, so it comes out that we actually learn from here that we're not allowed to separate Maaser in the Bet Agranot if the husband's not with her. Which means just like Truma, if you have an Eshet Kohen who comes to the Granot and she says, my name is Mrs. Kohen, right? And I want you to give me, Truma Gdola or Truma Maaser. If the husband's not with her, we don't give her. Yeah, we don't give her. Same halakha to do with the Levi. If the husband's not with her, we do not give her the Maaser Rishon. So Hani Chalamandamar, this is good according to the Mandamar Mishum Yichud. Because of Yichud, you know why? All of a sudden, you have the women. They're going to a person's granary. And all of a sudden, you come and you see, right, that your wife is over there. What are you doing over there? No, I'm collecting food. Yeah? No. If she's by herself, no collection. Sorry. We don't want Yichud. No. Person's granary is in your backyard. I'm going to Dr. Jean Paul and I'm telling him, give me the Maaser Rishon. Okay. You're not, no. We're talking about Mashta. What? Ma b'chutz. I'm going into your property. There's yichud. תלוי, זה פתוח באמצע האוויר, yes. But it's still, if I close the door, of course. If I lock the fence and nobody can get into my fence, that's yichud. So then it's yichud. No, nobody can see. Well, I got the trees all around. It's your property. Okay, that's it. I'm going to ask you a question. No, but it all depends on the circumstance. For example, let's say I have a house, let's say in Bal Harbor. Yeah, I've got a house in Bal Harbor. First of all, you need to get in. You need permission to get into this Bal Harbor. Not only that, in the village Bal Harbor. Yeah, the village. So now what happens is not only in the village you need permission to get in. Even inside there, I've got a house which is surrounded with a fence, right? A complete fence. For you to get in, you can't just come in. Yeah. Now somebody comes and they have yichud there. Even if it's outdoors, that's 100% yichud. 100% yichud. Now, again, if the wife's in town, can she come in the spot or the children? But let's say there's no wife and children, a not married man. Of course, there's yichud, even if it's outside, even if it's in his backyard.
No, I say because it's open, so people can see.
I know, well, it depends. Okay? If it's mamash open, people could see that. Okay, it could be. If it's mamash, not always neighbors could see. You should know that. Many times neighbors cannot see.
They don't watch on you, but they can see.
It all depends. Not always. You should know that. By the way, the same halacha applies to yichud even in a car, right? You take a car, you open it and you're a place where everybody's around. If you're going to go on a side street, nobody's around. There's a problem with yichud.
Really?
Of course.
The windows are
Well, again, if people could see it, and you're in an area where there's people around. Nowadays, by the way, you should know the majority of the cars, they don't have transparent windows other than the windshield in the front, right? That's why some people say that it's better to be in the front. You're right. If the woman's sitting in the back, that could be a problem. You understand? Well, again, that's a problem.
It's a problem if she's sitting in the back.
Well, yes, because she's sitting in the back and you can't actually see, right, what's going on. You're in the area where there's nobody around, late at night. There could be problems. Elevator, so there's going to be a big machloket in an elevator. First of all, elevators, it all depends. Usually elevators, people could open it up from the outside, right? The truth is, it depends. Sometimes for security reasons, what they do is that it goes directly from the floor until ground, or ground, and it won't open in the middle. But a lot of them, they do open in the middle. So if you could open up in the middle, so there's a whole machloket. What is the shiur of your food? Usually the elevator ride, I'm saying if we're not talking about that you're going to, 50 floors, usually it's a few seconds or whatever it is, but it all depends because there's a whole question about what is the shiur of your food. But you're right, if it's going to be one of these elevators that you're going up to the Empire State Building, right, and it could take a good 2-3 minutes until you're getting up there, and then so it could be a problem of your food.
No,
No, I don't know. Okay, fine, whatever it is.
So you're by yourself. You're going to the elevator in your.
So says this is good according to the Manamar Mishum Yichud because of Yichud. So then it makes sense why you're not going to give it to her by yourself, and that's why you always need the husband there with her. But according to the Manamar Mishum Grusha, because maybe he's going to get divorced, right? Maybe she's going to get divorced, and then she's going to be a zara, and then not everyone knows that she's divorced. Meaning like this: right now she's getting divorced. Now not everybody knows that women get divorced. So now all of a sudden she comes to you, right? And now we're not going to suspect of Yichud. That means there's no problem with Yichud. According to this Manamar, there's no Yichud. But what? She's already divorced. Now what's happening is she's coming back and she wants the food. Now you can't give her the food because once she's divorced, she can't eat the food anymore. So because of that, the Grusha, it's going to be a problem. Says the Gemara, one second, but she was a Bat Levi here. If she's a Bat Levi, she cannot eat Masechet, right? Of course she can. Yeah? So he says over here like this. He says, according to your reasoning, Grusha Bat Kohen, what about Bat Kohen? Grusha Bat Kohen, she doesn't eat Trumah. Ela gezerah mishum grusha bat Israel. No, it's a gezerah. Maybe it was a bat Israel that got married to the Kohen. Bat Israel got married to the Levi, and therefore then when she gets divorced, she does not continue eating. So says the Gemara, if so, my idia meureset. So why do we talk about only if she was meureset? She was only engaged to the Kohen. Yeah? So he says, right? It says over here, even if it's going to get married, it's going to be the same halacha. So the answer is the Gemara, I did Tanya Reisha meureset. Since in the Reisha we talk meureset, we also start on the Sefer Mudas that even though you're right, it's talking about Nisuah, right? That means it's only by the Nisuah. But we also use the same terminology, even though really Be'emet, it's only by Nisuah and it's not by Mudas. Tanu Rabbi, we learned in the right. Truma la Kohen, Maaser Rishon la Levi, right? It says over here like this: Truma is given to a Kohen, and Maaser Rishon is given to a Levi. Okay, these are the words of Rabbi Akiva, Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Lazar says, in 16, La Kohen, Masechet Rishon can only be given to the Kohen. La Kohen velo Levi. Are you going to tell me that according to Rabbi Lazar, it can only be given to the Kohen, not to the Levi? The pasuk says Mefurash and it's given to the Levim. What are you talking about? Only to the Kohen, only to the Kohen and not to the Levi. So answers the Gemara, Ema af la Kohen. It says no, also to a Kohen. Not only to the Kohen, also to the Kohen, to the Levi and to the Kohen. So says the Gemara, my time at the Kiva, what's reasoning Rabbi Kiva? The Kiva says in a pasuk, Ve'elavim tidaber b'matalehem, right? Ki tichum ebedisel ma'aser. So therefore, the Levim comes back. The pasuk is only talking about the Levim. So since it's talking about the Levim, only the Levim could take Masechet Rishon. Be'idach, but according to Rabbi Lazar, I said, yeah, why do you say that it's also in the Kohen? Rabbi Yeshua Levi like Rabbi Yeshua Levi. Rabbi Yeshua Levi says Rabbi Yeshua Levi. There are 24 places in the Bible, in the Torah, where the Kohanim are called Levi'im. And this is one of them. Right, which means that even though Tzadok was a Kohen, it called them a Levi. But it says Kohanim Halvi'im b'Netzadok. So according to this, it comes out that even though when it says in the pasuk Masechet Rishon Levi'im to the bear, the kavanah is to the Levi'im and the Kohanim. So therefore, Kohanim could also eat Maaser, that they learn it because they are also called Levi. Okay, even though they're Kohanim. Rabbi Akiva, according to the Akiva, here by Masechet Rishon Lo Matzit Amar, you can't say that. The Akiva says in pasuk Va'achaltem oto b'chol makom. Says 1 second. The Levi could eat Masechet Rishon in any place. Where does it mean any place? Even in the Bet HaKorot. This comes to exclude a Kohen. A Kohen cannot go into the Bet HaKorot. A Levi can. So for this is actually coming and teaching us that this is Mefurash only a Levi and not the Kohen. Because if it's going to be a Kohen, sorry, I cannot be Bethel Makom. And the other one, which is the Bilazar ben Azariah, he says when it says Kol any place where a person wants the lobai choma that does not require a wall, which means the maaser does not need to be eaten inside the walls of Yerushalayim. And if you're going to eat it, if you're going to be tameh, you're not going to get lashes. You're allowed to eat it even though you're going to be tameh. So therefore, that's why it's coming to exclude, but it's not coming to exclude the Kohanim. Okay, nekuda. Now we're going to bring down a story of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Elazar to do with the Kohen taking maaser rishon. So there was a gina that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, that he was a Kohen. Okay, are you listening? So Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is a Kohen. So he used to take the Maaser Rishon from this gina, from this garden. What?
What does that mean?
So says the Gemara, what happened was Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he came and he took the Maaser Rishon from this garden. So Rabbi Akiva went and he went to the entrance of the Bet HaKorot in order that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah can go inside the garden to take the maaser. So he said, Akiva betarmilo va'anaf hayeh. He says Akiva is still going with his tarmilo, with his how do you say the stick of the goim, the shepherd's stick. Yeah, he comes and he says va'anaf hayeh, and I'm going to live. Right? What does that mean exactly? So he says some people say that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was coming and saying that it's not good. That means even though he was doing something of he wanted to do whatever he wanted, the Elazar ben Azariah was coming and saying, I'm going to live, don't worry about it. I'm very rich, I don't need you. You understand? There's no problem. But there's different opinions exactly what he was doing. Okay, with what was his explanation. Itman, it was stated. Okay? Why is it that they made a knas, the Levine, right, to make them lose it? So pligi ba Rabbi Yonatan v'Savai. So the machloke between Rabbi Yonatan and right Savai. So he says Hadamar one says Shelo alu b'Ezra. Since the Levim did not go up during the days of Ezra from Babel to Eretz Yisrael, so therefore we made a class that they actually lose their maaser rishon. The Hadamar one of them says that shisnehu kohanim ala, in order that the kohanim could be somech on the maaser rishon bibetu matan, which means this: if a kohen's tameh, can he eat truma? No. So what can he eat? If I'm going to say that he could still eat Maaser Rishon, so therefore I just saved the Kohen. Because if the Kohen is Tameh, now he can't eat Truma, at least he eats Maaser Rishon. So the fact that I permitted a Kohen to eat Maaser Rishon, that gave them an opportunity that they could still eat something even though they are going to be Tameh. So that they didn't go up from Eretz Yisrael to Babel, therefore we made them a knas. But according to the Mandamar, I don't understand. To make life easier for the Kohanim, we're going to make a class for the Levi. You understand? The first one I understand was a punishment. They didn't come up during the time of Ezra Sofer, after Babel. So you punish them. Okay, fine, makes sense. But according to the second opinion, that it's because what? It's that way the Kohanim could find something what to eat when they're tameh. Because of that, they're going to come and give a punishment to the Levi. According to everybody, it's a knas. That they didn't come out during the times of Babel. Again, here what are we dealing with? More savak knas alanim, more savak kohanim matan yuni. There's a machloket. Do we say that it's because of the knas that they should give maaser rishon to the anim, and therefore the levim are actually losing out? And one of them holds no, that savak kohanim matan anim, that the kohanim are actually the anim. These are the anim because basically when a kohen is tameh, he's like an anim. He can't eat truma. So therefore, he's like an anim. Therefore, the knas was to give it to the kohanim, but not to the Levi. So that's a machloket. So Bishlam Knasa, I understand that it's going to be according to the mandama that says it's a knas for the aniyin. So because of that, that's why Rabbi Akiva went to the entrance of the Bet HaKvarot, and he stopped Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah from taking the Maaseh. Because since Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah was not an ani, he couldn't take it, right, according to Rabbi Akiva. But according to the mandama, that the knas is that you should just give it to the Kohanim. Why does Rabbi Akiva go to the entrance of the Bet HaKvarot, right? That means he made the purposely the entrance of the Pinah going to Bet HaKvarot. He says at the end of the day, Kohanim are not zochim to it. Nevertheless, when Zaman Azir, it's allowed to take it because of the Knas, right? There's a Knas, so he's allowed to take it. So answers the Gemara, this is what he told them. If you came as a Torah Knas, then you could take it. If you're taking it because you want to just divide it between yourselves, the Kohanim, you don't take it. Why? Because it says, I mean, even though he was like saying that according to the Kohanim or Sofem, he didn't Torah, Rabbi Akiva wanted to stop him from taking it. And how do we know that the Levim did not come up to Babel, from Babel to Eretz Israel? It says in the Pasuk, so he didn't find any Bnei Levi. So that's a Pasuk Mefurash telling you that the Levim did not come up, right, during the times of Ezra Sofer. But Techila lo ayu ma'amidim shofrim ela min al-Levim. You know, at the beginning, when the Bedin wanted to come and give up psak din, and then they had like police officers. The police officers were always Levim. Shneimar v'shotrim al-Levim ifnechem. Achshav she'em ma'amidim shotrim ela miseh. Now they only do it from the Israelim. Shneimar v'shotrim arabim v'rashechem. Says the Mishnah on the bottom of Yevamos Bet, right, 86b. Bat Yisrael shenisel lekuen tocha b'truma. The Bat Yisrael gets married to a Kohen, she's allowed to eat in Truma. Met, if the husband dies. Now she has a child. So now she has a child from the Kohen. Tocha b'truma, she's allowed to eat in Truma because of the child. Instead, the Levi, if she gets married to a Levin, right, tocha b'maseh, she's allowed to eat maseh. Met, the Levi dies. When she has a child. Tocha b'maseh, she's allowed to eat because of the child. Which one? Yeah, the son, because of the child. Instead, Israel, if right now she gets married to Israel, she can't eat anything. Why? She says she's not. Met, if right now the husband dies, and he has a child, she cannot get married. That means, why? Because they are Zarim as well. So therefore, they are pasul from Truma Maseh. What do we say? Met benam Israel. What if now the child from Israel dies, right? Tochal b'maseh, she's allowed to eat Maseh. Right? If she's exactly, if she was about to serve about to Levi, we met Benal Levi. If it dies, the child of the Levi, she's allowed to eat, right, the Truma because of her son, which is the Kohen. We met Benami Kohen. If the son of the Kohen now dies, Lo Tocha B'Truma says she could. Why? Because now she's a Zara, and therefore she does not have any powers. I mean, this is because of the children. That's what's going to come, and gonna let her get married or not, eat or not eat. And obviously, we continue with Hashem tomorrow morning.